Hello out there to you. In this video, we're going to figure out the competitive equilibrium price and quantity, consumer surplus, producer surplus, and total surplus. Then we're going to add a tax on the consumers, making the consumers 2 monetary units poorer. So in this problem, we don't know what monetary unit that is. It could be pesos, could be ruples, could be anything you want it to be, dollars, whatever, Bitcoin, whatever. So now on this one, we want to calculate the new price that the buyers will pay, the quantity, the consumer surplus, the producer surplus, and then have a new thing in here, deadweight loss, which is the loss in efficiency, and the total taxes collected. Then we'll draw a graph. We'll actually draw a graph to help out with this, make it a little faster. Okay, so we'll do this first part with using algebra. So I've got a demand function and a supply function. So I need to set my demand function equal to my supply function. This is going to give us a price. Whatever that price is, that's the equilibrium price in the market. So we'll do that right here. Minus P equals -6 plus P. And so I'm going to add 6 to both sides. Gives me 20. And I'm going to add 1P to both sides. This is 2P. And so P, divide both sides by 2. P is 10. So the equilibrium price is 10. Okay. Now to get the equilibrium quantity, you can just plug in this 10 into either function. So 14 minus 10 is 4. -6 plus 10 is also 4, so the equilibrium quantity is 4. Now to get the consumer surplus, this is the difference between what the consumers are willing to pay and what the price that they actually do pay. So I'm going to draw a little picture here. This is not to scale, but a little picture to help us conceptualize this. So we've got this demand function, and we've got a supply function. We know that the equilibrium price where these two meet is 10. We also know that there'll be 4 units exchanged at that price of 10. So consumer surplus is going to be the area underneath the demand curve but above the price. And since this curve is linear, or by linear I mean a straight line, we can just calculate that by saying 1/2 base times height of that triangle. So the only thing we don't know in that triangle is we don't know where the top of the demand curve is, but we can figure that out. So we can plug in a quantity 0. So put in quantity 0 right here, and I'll do that right down here. So QD, just rewrite the function here, minus P, quantity 0, 14 minus P, P equals 14. So 14 is the most they're willing to pay, sometimes called the reservation price, also called the choke price. So in this case, it's the difference between 14 and 10. So still 1/2. The difference there in that part of the triangle, that's 4, times 0 to 4, which is also 4. So that's 16. So that would be 8. Okay, so the consumer surplus is 8. Then the producer surplus, that's going to be the area above the supply curve but below the price. So same deal because it's a linear supply curve. So the thing we don't know here is we don't know this number right here. So we're going to find that out by putting in a quantity of 0 also. So here's the supply function, P, and we put a 0 right here. I got -6 plus P, and I got P equals 6. So this number right here is 6. So the distance between here and here is 4 for the producer surplus. And then the distance between here and here is also 4. So that would be 8. Okay. Total surplus, that's your consumer surplus plus your producer surplus. So that's going to be 16. That was pretty easy. All right. So now I'm going to put a tax on this. And so basically all I need to do is the quantity demanded under the tax is going to be the consumer paying $2 more. So they're only willing to pay the producer now 12 instead of 14. Okay. and then this will be price, and then the quantity supplied isn't going to change. So we'll just leave that right there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually graph this. So let me get my free graphing software. Okay, so you can get this too. This one's called GeoGebra. There are others out there. They're pretty good. The only thing that we have to recognize, though, in economics, we're always going to put the price on the y-axis and the quantity on the x-axis. So when you're making this graph, you have to substitute in a y for any time you see a p, and we're going to substitute an x for any time we see a quantity. So I got x equals 14 minus y. That's our original demand function. That's what I was drawing earlier. And then x equals -6 plus y. That's our supply function, and that's the intercept we saw earlier. So price of 10 and quantity of 4. Now we're going to put in this, what do we call it, S plus tax. I think I can change the color of that. Settings, I want a different color. Color, you can have all kinds of colors there. Make it red so it's a little easier to see. And then a color here. I'm going to make that go away. There we go. I don't know how to get a fancier color there on that one. Get a nice blue there. Pops. There we go. So there's our supply and demand. Okay, and then I want this quantity with the tax. So that's going to be 12 minus P. So this is X equals 12 minus Y. Okay, so the green line is that. So now we've got this, and I can kind of zoom in if I want, and I can take a screenshot of this, like if I was going to turn this in for homework or something. And I've got all of this, and I can write right on this. So this is supply. This is regular old demand, and then this is demand. Whoops, it's getting hung up there a little bit. This guy right here, this is demand minus tax, or if you wanted to write it, demand minus 2, because it's shifted the demand down by 2. So now we can write right on this. So this right here, this 9, this gives us the quantity, and this is the price that the sellers get to keep. So we're looking for where does the demand minus tax cross the original supply curve, because that's all the consumer's willing to pay. So this would be the number of units exchanged. Okay. Before we were exchanging here, this was the quantity under like the free market, and then this is the quantity under tax. Okay. Okay, so then up here, this is what we call the price the buyers will pay. Okay, so the price the buyers will pay is right here. The price the sellers get to keep is right here. And PB and PS, just to check your work, always have to be 2 apart. It can't be closer than that because that's the amount of the tax. Some people call this the tax wedge. Okay, so that's 2. So how many units are we selling? So this would give us the tax. The tax revenue is going to be the quantity sold times the per unit tax. And the quantity sold in this case is 3. We're going to multiply that by the tax. So tax revenue collected is going to be 6. The consumer surplus, since I have this graphically, we can just calculate right here. It's just that rectangle right there. Let me make it in yellow here. It's got that other line here. Okay, because the consumers are going to pay that higher price. So here they are. So it's the area of that yellow triangle, 1/2, and this is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. I guess if you were writing it out, I could write out the whole thing. 3 times 3. And that would be 4.5. 4.5 is the consumer surplus. The producer surplus is actually the same thing. So it would be down here. And that's the same number, so I'm not going to write it again. And then this would be the tax revenue. And this guy right here, so do I have a different color? Not really. It's red. This red triangle here, this is going to be our deadweight loss. So if you just calculate the area of that triangle, that'll get you your deadweight loss. And that's going to be 2 times 1. So 1/2, 2 times 1, and that would just be 1. Now, an alternative way to calculate the deadweight loss would be to take your original consumer surplus, your original producer surplus, and then find the tax revenue, subtract the tax revenue from both of those, and whatever's left over, the difference between those two numbers is going to be the area of that triangle. So you can also do it that way. I've seen that phrased that way as well. So you could take this, and if your homework file was either in Paint or in Microsoft Word, you can actually paste that right in there, and then just copy the whole thing and save it in there. So that gives you all of those values, and that's how to solve that problem.